here at Garden Crossings. Hi, I'm Heidi, and today we got a huge shipment in from 4-Star Greenhouses in Carlton, Michigan. They are our wholesale plug grower for all of our beautiful proven winter annuals. So you can see just this beautiful array of color. The sun's out just a little bit today, and I think that just makes the plants look even extra happy. So the team is going to go ahead and count all of the plants to make sure we got everything we needed. There's a little over, I think, 50,000 plugs that came in this week. So they'll get them all counted and inventoried. Our grower will come in and inspect everything for bugs before we bring it back to the back greenhouses. And then we've got our tags that came in, so those are going to get counted and inventoried as well. And then hopefully, maybe by this afternoon, the team might start planting. Our goal is to have all of these things planted probably by like late Thursday or early Friday. So we'll see how that all goes. But what they're going to do though is there is some prepping that is involved with these plants when they come in. So most of the plants when they come in as a plug, and this is the size of the plant. This is really ideal where we're seeing a little bit of the roots there. So this is kind of really a perfect plant. They'll go in and do any trimming if it's needed. So let's see, for example, this Coleus torchlight, it's a little tall. So they're going to go in, and if you look, you can see how there's little leaflets kind of coming out in different areas. So they're going to go in and probably trim them back, like yay. Take off some of these bigger leaves. And the reason they do this is because we want this plant to be nice and branched as it's growing, where if we would have planted that original plant with that height to it, it would have just created kind of a tall, lanky plant. So they'll go through and trim these as needed so that there'll be a nice branched plant as they grow. Here's a Calibrachoa, or a million bell. This one too, it's got a beautiful flower on it, and as much fun as it would be to watch that flower open up, we really do not want to have flowers on any of these plants right now. So they're going to take a scissors, I'm just going to use my hands, and they're going to trim the plant in about half, getting rid of all the flowers and the buds. And what that's going to do is it's going to help create a more branched, fuller plant, opposed to kind of a long and lanky plant. So we'll try to get some more footage of the actual trimming of these as they head out. But in the meantime, we're excited for all that is going to be happening here over the next week, of getting all these babies planted and growing in the greenhouse for you to enjoy. All of the plants have been brought in. The inventory manager has gone through, checked her list off, made sure we received all of the plants that we were needing to receive this week. They got divided out based off of which greenhouses they were going to get planted into, and so that's where we're at right now. We are out in one of our warmer greenhouses. We separate the plants, like I said, with warmer or cooler growing conditions based off of the varieties that we are planting at the time. And earlier in the week, we went and pre-filled all of the pots as well. So the pots all get pre-filled ahead of time. They're stickered ahead of time. So what Kelly's doing, she's the one kind of running back and forth here. She's grabbing the plants that are needed, and then she's verifying that the pots that she's grabbing are also the correct pots. They all have their unique barcode label. So she is the one that's making sure the correct plants go in the correct pots. She keeps fulfilling the line with the empty containers with the soil in them. They roll down the roller track, and the reason why we use, or it's actually conveyor belt, the reason why we're using conveyor system is because it keeps the pace steady. So the team on the line, they kind of all have to go at the pace of what the belt is working. So we've got 2 people planting on each side of the line. One person down a ways is putting all the tags in, and then at the end of the line there is somebody who is then setting all the plants down in the greenhouse. So as they get to a certain point, this conveyor system will get rolled down the sidewalk, because we don't want them to have to do any more walking than what is necessary. So it's kind of that work smarter, not harder approach. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to head over to another planting line and see what they're planting. The greenhouse that we're in currently, we are planting up Super Bells, Super Tunia, and Super Bina. We have 6 greenhouses that are dedicated solely to those 3 plant varieties. So we come through and we plant all of those varieties anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 different rounds. And the reason why we're doing that is because that always is keeping the plants fresh and in rotation. So we obviously don't want everything ready the first week that we're shipping, because then we would be constantly having to trim them throughout the spring and into the summer. So if every 2 to 3 weeks we're planting a new round and shipping them out as we go, we're just constantly being able to have fresh new material ready to get shipped out. So it's so pretty as we stand here from the vantage point that I'm at right now, seeing all the beautiful tags just all lined up, the little, we like to call them the little soldiers, all in a row. As you can see over here to my left, just the massive amount of bubble gum, and you can see that by looking at all of these pink tags. Bubble gum is our #1 selling annual here at Garden Crossings, and it's followed up closely by the Super Petunia Vista Jazzberry. So there's a lot of pink petunias that go out of here. One thing you'll notice this year that we are doing is in every tray that we are planting into, we're putting a little biological sachet in. And in that sachet, it houses little mites that are good bugs that are going after any bad bugs like thrip or sometimes spider mite, which that's later in the season when it gets hot, and even aphids. There's little bugs in there that are good bugs that will go after and eat the bad bugs. So this is our one way that we're trying to be more using more of the biologicals as a prevention to keeping just creatures and bugs out of the greenhouse. So we did a trial last year on a small scale in our hanging baskets and our planters, and it went really well. So this year we've decided to dedicate the time, the money, and the energy into using these little sachets of biologicals in all of the annuals that we're growing this year. So let's go down and take a look at what the team is doing down here. This planting line here, they kind of have, let's say, the easier job, and the only reason I'm saying it's easier is because when you're planting Super Bells or Super Petunias or even the Super Beanas, there's just a lot more consistency to the plants that are coming out of the plug trays. They're usually rooted very well. The tops on them are always very consistent. So you can just plant these plant varieties a lot quicker. So they have 4 people on their line, where the other team we just watched had 5 people. So you've got your line leader, which is actually Emily here, and she is the one that's responsible for grabbing the plugs off of the shelves over here. She's also responsible for grabbing the proper pots that the plants are going to go into. So she's always verifying, okay, do I have the right plugs? Are the stickers on these trays the stickers of the plants that we're planting into them? So we have 2 planters here, Emily and Lana. As they get sent down the road, Lucy there is putting the tags in, and between her and Madison at the end, they're sticking one of the little sachets in with the biologicals. Madison then will grab usually 2 trays at a time and setting them down on the ground. So they just moved their conveyor system line down the sidewalk. So this is going to be the furthest point that Madison is walking to set down, but as they continue to set more down, they're going to be working their way this way, and eventually the plants will be where I'm standing. So this is just always fun to watch the process and how it works. One thing I'm actually going to show you too is we talked about when we got the plants in, how sometimes the plants need to be trimmed because they're too tall. So I am going to actually ask Emily a minute if she's done her trimming yet. Have you done your trimming yet on your plants?
Somebody did some trimming for us.
Okay, so somebody did do trimming for them already. But basically, let's go take a look at the plugs and see. So these plugs were probably about twice the size they are now. And basically all they did was just take a scissors and trim the plants to the height that they wanted them to be. They didn't do anything like looking at it and like, oh, where do I trim? No, none of that. There's no time for that. They just go through and trim them to the desired height that they want them to be. The reason why, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, to why we are trimming these plants is because we don't want them to be really long when we're planting, because then they're going to get leggy and stringy. So if we can go ahead and trim these plants up, it's going to branch them out better, which the better branch the plant is, the more flowers in turn it's going to have. Also, if these plants had flowers on them right now, this plant is going to put its energy into producing more flowers. I don't want the energy of this plant to go into flowers at this point. I want the energy to go down into the roots and into the potting soil we're planting them into. So I will try to do another video at some point showing you just how the trimming actually happens. But I did want to just show you, this is kind of what the plants look like after they've been trimmed. Stick them in there. Now here's an example, Super Bell's white. So these here are very compact, but you can see that they do have some little flower buds on them. Because these are right now very short, we're not going to go through and trim these buds off. So these will be varieties that we'll have to watch once they're planted. We might have to go in and just do a light trim on them once they get a little bit more size to them. Because yeah, like I said, we don't want that energy going into the plant flowers. We got one more stop along this tour. We're going to head out to the potting barn and show you the bare root that came in and how they're working on those right now. And the last stop on today's tour, we are out in the barn and they are planting up bare root perennials, where the other plants that are getting planted were annuals. So the bare root perennials get planted on this potting machine. So we don't pre-fill the pots because it's really quite difficult to plant the bare root. You can't just stick them in the hole. You have to stick them in and put the soil around them as you're going. So Jess here, she is planting, what are you guys planting? Eucalyptus right now, Princess Bride. So we'll take a look at the process of how she does this. So she grabs the pot and grabs the plant and lets the soil just kind of fall in place around the plant. And then she makes sure she top dresses it to have a full pot of soil. So it's important for us that you're getting a full pot of soil when you're getting your plants. The more soil that's in there, that's just the more area for the plant to grow into. The other thing I'm going to tell you about is we are using the eco-friendly pots for our perennial line this year. So we're going to actually take a look at one of these pots and I'm going to explain to you how exactly they work. So let's head on over and take a look at the pots. All right, so here we have our Eco Plus quart size containers, and these are containers that are compostable and they will break down in the landscape. So the reason we chose to use these this year for the perennials is because when you plant a perennial, you really don't go and dig it up again. So if you go ahead and plant this in the ground with your perennial, you will never see it again, unless for some reason you dig up that perennial. But anyways, how these work is they have two pull tabs, one on either side. When you receive this pot, you're going to go ahead and crack these pull tabs off. I'm not going to do it because they need this one, but crack them off on both sides, and that's going to expose this triangle here along with the full bottom and then the triangle on this side of the soil and the roots that are in this pot to the soil that you are planting into. So basically that perennial that's in this pot will be able to just root down into the earth and live its life happily as it would if you didn't put this in the ground. The reason of putting this in the ground is because we're trying to get away from as much plastic as we can. Now obviously in this industry, plastic is a huge piece of what we do. So any little step that we can make or take to eliminating some plastic is kind of the direction that we're heading for. So you're going to be seeing more of these plants and these containers as time goes on. But for this year, we're going to be doing our full perennial line. If you have any questions or comments on anything that you saw in today's video, please leave them below. If you're new to our station, we welcome you to subscribe. And if you are looking to plant some beautiful annuals, perennials, and shrubs in your garden or landscape this year, you can head to our website, gardencrossings.com, where you can place your order and we will ship the plants directly to your front door. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.